Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Little Jaded and the first episode of 2024. We are kicking off this year strong with a really exciting episode. So, I'm Kelly, one of your co hosts today, and I'm joined by a familiar voice, my other co host, Joanna.
Hey guys, I'm so excited for this episode, 2024, all the things. There's a lot of exciting stuff that's going to be happening very soon. But yeah, I'm excited for today's guest. It's really weird having her being an interviewee because she's usually on the other side helping us interview our guests. She's one of the OG co-hosts of A Little Jaded. You know her, you love her. It's Jade Zalevsky.
Hey everyone! Super excited to be here being interviewed. Kind of weird, like Joanna said, but let's do it.
Yeah. So if you're a longtime listener of the pod, I'm sure you know that Jade is the founder and CEO of Jaded Productions, which is our mother company where A Little Jaded is under. She founded the company in 2019 as an artist management company originally, and she's been with the company and been a key player in leading the company through so many different eras to where it's at today. She recently graduated from Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and is a first year law student at Southwestern Law School in Los Angeles. So, Jade, for those who might be newer to the pod and don't know your background, Jaded's background, all of that, can you kind of explain what drove you to work in the music industry in the first place? And if you have one, what's your end goal?
Yeah, well, totally. Thanks guys for that intro. So yeah, Jaded kind of started funny enough in my dorm room. Classic, I feel like a lot of people say their companies start in dorm rooms, mine actually did. So yeah, I had grown up watching and listening to a lot of music and watching a lot of artists of our time, getting big and having a bunch of fans. Somebody that was really influential for me was Justin Bieber. I watched, his growth and stuff. And originally I was like, I might want to be like a singer or a musician. And then I kind of realized like man, like I'm not loving the spotlight, and I don't love like, necessarily opening myself up to that kind of creative criticism. So like I still do, play guitar and sing and stuff, but it's more so just for myself. But I was like, okay, well, I still love music and I still love, the industry, but I didn't really know what it was. So, I watched a lot of big players in the industry and I was like, oh, wait, there's like a whole background to like Justin Bieber's career. Like there's like 20 million people surrounding him, like lifting him up and helping him do what he does every day from when he walks on the stage to when he walks off. There's like 100 people surrounding him that are helping him. So I was like, maybe I can be one of those kind of people, not necessarily for Justin Bieber, just like in general. So yeah, so I was like, let me see what I can do. And artist management seemed like a cool path in because you didn't necessarily need to in my experience, my limited experience at that point. It didn't seem like something you needed training for. So I kind of just was like, let's just start something up and see what happens. So I talked to this girl in my from my like high school, and I kind of helped her a little bit do some video editing, and then I was just doing a bunch of other stuff and ended up meeting Joanna. And so then we kind of started to get rolling with the artist management thing. And then Kelly eventually came on, Mariana eventually came on, a whole bunch of other people joined us, and Viv, of course. And so it's just been a really exciting ride. We went from artist management to, producing the next wave of music industry professionals, because we felt like, that's where our path and our hearts were leading us, was more so like, let's help lift others up with the knowledge that we have now. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We've been entering a lot of new eras, doing a lot of zigzags, but we're all just here learning, and it's been such a cool and exciting ride, and I can't believe we're in 2024 already. for Jade,
Seriously.
in terms of Jaded.
Yeah, seriously. And this was when you were talking, I just had a question. This wasn't like a pre-planned question, but obviously you said like you wanted to be in artist management, and now as we said, you're a law student, and we're going to talk a lot about you being a law student. Can you explain a little bit more about like where your head was at when you were like, "Oh, I'm going to do law specifically instead of like business or communications or, something else?"
Yeah, totally. Well, so when I went to college originally, I went in for business and I graduated in business. I was a finance and information systems double major. So I I originally, that was my path, kind of like music was always on the back, but I was like, maybe finance and information systems could help me with that, and could help me somehow guide me into music. And I also still kind of wanted to stay home and stuff, but neither here nor there. Um, yeah, so I graduated in business, which is weird, kind of like a weird jump into law. But I was in my junior year. I was talking to a lot of people, one of them being my mentor, who we've had on here before, Gerard. But I was talking to a lot of people about like what should be my next step. And I was also at the same time taking a business law class, and I loved that class. Like it was my favorite class. It was, to this day, it was the only class that I ever really truly wanted to go to in college, like was excited to go to. So yeah, I was taking that at the same time, and I was like, maybe I could do like entertainment law. Like musicians need lawyers, right? So then I started like, going on LinkedIn and talking to people, and I found Gerard and I found a whole bunch of other people that have been really helpful in my journey. And I was like, asking them what do they do on their day to day, and just like cold reaching out to people, just anything to understand the job a little bit more. And so yeah, once I decided that, I was like, hey, I'm really interested in law, and I also love music, so why don't I just like try to smash those two together and see what happens. And that was kind of how it got started, like the jump to law.
That's honestly, it's so inspiring because you didn't necessarily do like a whole pre-law thing in university, and you kind of shifted your career because of like you found your passion in junior year, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people tend to just stick to like the one path that they subscribe to at the start of like their university education. And I was wondering, what did you want out of law school, and how do you think that your experience in business and not necessarily pre-law helped you, especially like studying in Southwestern, for example?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, it helped me so much. I like this question because we always talk about on here. I feel like, you can change your path again and again and again. Like most of us, us here right now are like early 20s, we can change our path over and over and over again. But yeah, I love that because I think it's extremely helpful to, be in like a different path. Like I know, Joanna, you were right, early childhood education, right? Like that's crazy. It's just,
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like, I was gonna be a teacher? No.
yeah, exactly. So it's just like it's funny to me to watch how our paths change, but I think it was extremely helpful to be able to have multiple, because now I feel like I have multiple experiences, and I've had internships in the IT space, and I feel like that's just been so helpful in broadening my horizons. So it's not so, in my experience, it's helped me to be not so tunnel visioned, just towards like law is the only thing that exists, because everything plays into everything, especially like in the, corporate world, kind of, like without legal there wouldn't be finance, or finance might be the break in the laws, and without, finance, we can't pay information systems people, like, and so it all like kind of plays into each other. And I really enjoy the fact that I had that experience. If I had to go back, I would not even do pre-law, like, because I feel like it has really helped me to have multiple perspectives. And also I feel like it's going to be helpful in the job hunt and helpful in the internship hunt to have different things on your resume. expands your horizons, and it shows that you're not extremely one-sided. Not to say that if you know what you want to do, by all means keep doing it, but if you change your mind and change it again, that's also okay.
Yeah. No, and it's also cool to think about like you're gonna have a different perspective than somebody who was just strictly pre-law. And obviously, of course, that's fine. Like, they started off doing all of these different classes that would lead them to where they need to be as a lawyer, but you took a non-traditional route. And so you're gonna have different, different pieces of insight and different information that's gonna lead you in different areas and might help you in a different way than somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like some of our casebook, like some of the cases that we're reading even are like, white collar crimes or something. And not necessarily that that's what we need to pick out of the case specifically, but it definitely helps me understand conceptually, like, okay, yeah, so they embezzled. That's what it was, like that kind of thing. So yeah, it
Yeah.
helps for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, staying on the topic of law school, and you going, from your bachelor's and applying to law school, what was that process like? Whether, it be, the LSAT situation, what is the LSAT? And in the end, what swayed you to choose where you ended up going? Because if anybody listened to the graduation episode we did a few months back, you still hadn't made your decision yet, and you were bouncing between two different ones. So, yeah, talk about that kind of process and your experience.
Wow. What a throwback. So much has changed since then. I can't, but
I
yeah,
know.
I can't believe that it's been that long. But yeah, I think that the LSAT is a big scary word, but we'll get into that. It's just it's supposed to scare you kind of, and but whatever, we'll talk about that. So basically, once I decided to go to law school, and if anybody is like kind of trying to, they've made their decision and now they have no idea how to get started, I was the same. I have nobody else in my family, in my close immediate family that's a lawyer. So this was me kind of like navigating it by myself and trying to figure it out. But so yeah, once I did that, I kind of started looking into schools that I wanted to go to. And a small tip, if anybody's looking, just law school in general doesn't necessarily have to be entertainment law. If you type in the law school that you want to go to and then type in ABA 509, that's going to give you all of their information on their statistics of how many people applied, how many people were accepted, like specific numbers, and where you're going to fall in the LSAT range and where you're going to fall in the GPA range, and if they give out scholarships, if they allow part-time students. It was the best thing I've ever heard once somebody told me about it, because it helped me so much realize like where I'm going to land. And I'm a visual planner, so I like to see where I'm going to land. But yeah, so look up the law school's ABA 509, like where you want to go, and see if it's like realistically attainable. Then after that, I was like, okay, so I got to battle this big bad LSAT, whatever the heck that is. Basically, it's just a standard test. There's a reading comprehension portion, and then there's what is it, logic games, which was the trickiest for me because it's just like I don't even know how to describe it. It's weird, but yeah. And then there's logical reasoning, I think. I don't know. There's 3 sections of it, and reading comprehension is going to be most similar to those that have taken the SAT. It's kind of just like reading through it. And then logic games is really tricky, like logic games. I don't know how else to say it. And logical reasoning, for some reason, I really flowed with logical reasoning. So but you got to find out what's best for you. But Khan Academy has some free stuff, and then there's some other paid courses. I really recommend the paid courses. Like I took my LSAT. I took a practice exam like right before I had any teachers or anything, and it wasn't good. But don't let that dissuade you. Kind of, if you can, I would recommend buying like a course and buying a teacher and a tutor and stuff like that. Because it really helped. It bumped up my score like 6 or 7 points, which was helpful. So, yeah, that's kind of what the LSAT is, and that's one portion of your application. And then you have your GPA from college, which is why I recommend trying, if you can, try to figure out that you want to go to law school sooner than later, or at least just don't mess up your grades that bad that you can't get in anywhere. Because that would be a hard challenge to overcome, because they do look at the LSAT and also your GPA the most. But
Basically, don't be a C's get degrees type of thing.
yes, exactly. Yeah, because like a senior year, everybody was like, let's party. It's like party time. We're going, we're doing it. And I was like, I still got to get into law school, like, because it's like they look at everything you've ever done. Like, yeah, they'll still look, they want your senior year transcripts, even like after graduation, like May 5th, when I graduated, May 6th, I had to turn my grades into them, like they still want to see every single thing you've ever done. Which just comes with the territory. But yeah, so don't mess it up. Don't do C's get degrees. And but then there's also the personal statement you have to write. And if your university has a writing center, I really recommend going and getting them to look over your personal statement. That was a lifesaver for me. It was great. And recommendation letters is also a big one. So if you have a professor or somebody professional that you trust to write you a letter, not your parents, not your family members, like somebody that is, that you trust to write a good letter about you. You're not allowed to read it, but yeah, somebody that you trust to turn in a good letter about you. There's that part of the application. And then I swear there's more. I'm probably leaving out more, but it's going to take up a lot of your extra time. So just be cautious about that. But that is kind of like the journey of, applying to law school. And then it all compiles down into one thing that you turn into the law school admissions council, and then they get it to your school. And then from there, you just sit and you wait, which is weird because you've been working hard for like 7 or 8 months trying to compile your application. And so then you just sit and wait, and then it's just a waiting game. But that's the process.
I will say, like, as someone who's been spending the last several months trying to just like get my head in the game for applying to grad school. For those who don't know, I'm studying psychology and I might go to grad school. We'll see. We'll see. Um, I can't stress enough like what Jade was saying about how you do need to like think so far ahead. I got like really unlucky with my university because they never told us anything about it. You kind of have to look for your resources and everything like that. I will also say that for recommendation letters, if you volunteer anywhere, even if you have like an internship or anything, anyone who's your supervisor can also write a good recommendation letter and they want to help you. Um, if you're a good person, they want to help you, so don't feel afraid to reach out. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'll
I was
move
gonna
on.
say, as someone who, I didn't go the grad school route, but when you were talking about this, like before you even mentioned that, Kelly, I couldn't help but think about like even if you're someone who doesn't want to go into law school, but you're thinking about maybe going to grad school, how much some of what you're saying, like these little like nuggets of information, will probably still apply to you and your journey, just maybe in a different way. But before we move on to the next question, I do want to hear, Jade, what made you choose Southwestern versus your other one? Because I know obviously one of them, like we mentioned, is in Los Angeles, and the other one was back on the East Coast, which is where you're from. So how did that kind of affect your decision?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, went off on a tangent on the last one, then forgot what I
No,
was going.
you're good.
But yeah, I had basically applied to, which sounds kind of crazy when people hear it, which I didn't really know was crazy until I was talking to my other fellow colleagues at law school. But I applied to 2 schools. I applied to Southwestern and I applied to New York Law School. So I was like, I want to do entertainment. It's either LA or New York. It's got to be. So basically I applied, sent them both in, got accepted around the same time, and it was made it really tough because it was around the same like scholarship money. So then I was like, oh, I really don't know what to do. So it came down to the little factors, but I had so many conversations with so many people, and a ton of conversations with my therapist. But at the end of the day, I had kind of known, I had always known that I wanted to at least try LA. I was like, I've always wanted to live there. I've always wanted to work there. I've always just wanted to spend time there, like, besides just visiting for a weekend or a week. Like, I actually want to engage in the culture there and see what everything's all about. Everybody's always like, LA, so let's go check it out. So basically that was kind of where it went. I kind of just always knew I wanted to go to LA. I was also really tired of the snow. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I was tired of the cold, and just was like, let's try it out. And yeah, it sounds dumb. There was a lot more thought into it, but that was the big factor, was just that since I can remember, I've wanted to live in LA. And the program's great, obviously. Like, whenever you look up when you look up entertainment law, like top 10 entertainment law schools, Southwestern has been top 10 for I don't even know how many years now, but they produce a lot of really incredible entertainment lawyers, like uh Camille Vasquez, Johnny Depp's lawyer, from the that Depp versus Heard thing. She went there. She came back and talked to us. Marcia Clark from the OJ trial, she went there. A lot of great entertainment lawyers went there, so that was another big factor.
Well, I think you're in good hands. Speaking of LA and speaking of your time there, what is your day-to-day like as a law student? What like occupies your time? Like what is your day-to-day or weekly schedule like?
Yeah. It's a little boring. So most of the time I just go to class. I law school is very, very, I was just telling Joanna and Kelly before this, but law school is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. So yeah, I basically just wake up, get ready. I put on makeup because that makes me happy, and like that's my little break for the day. And then, basically go to class, and then come back and try to make sense of what just happened in class, and make sure all my notes make sense, put it into an outline. And then yeah, if I don't have any more classes for the day, I'll probably go over to a study room or to the library and just kind of chill there until nightfall. And then if there's nothing left for like, if there's no big test coming up or anything, if it's just a regular week, then I'll try to quit by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. But other than that, yeah, I probably get like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to myself at night. I try to go to the gym. That's pretty much every day. I mean, it's not like the weekends really aren't much different than that either. But I mean, to each their own, honestly. I've seen so many things about law school, and some people do study that way, like I do, and some people study a totally, like, just chill with it and then walk out with A's, and kudos, honestly, because couldn't be me.
Nothing makes me more mad than saying that.
Yeah,
Um, as
seriously.
a student, I'm just curious, this wasn't a planned question, but like I keep seeing videos on my feed because it's definitely the new year and everyone's trying to create healthy habits. I
Mhm.
was wondering what time do you sleep and wake up? Because I
Okay.
feel like everyone's always like the 5 a.m. routine.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own with that as well. I think it's I like to wake up a little bit earlier. I like to wake up. It depends on what time my first class is. It's typically somewhere around 7 a.m. so that I can go to the gym. But yeah, I like to go to the gym early in the day because then I don't want to think about it. And also, the more petty reason is because my favorite study room is taken at like 1 o'clock. If I'm not in there, if my class ends at like 12:30 and I'm not in there by like 1, it's gone until like 8 or 9. And then where am I studying? My desk at my in my apartment, and that sucks. I hate that desk. But yeah,
Honestly, relatable,
yeah.
relatable.
Exactly. It's just if you sit somewhere the same, if you sit one place every day, it gets boring. So yeah, that's more of a reason why. But yeah, an early riser for the most part.
I mean, we talked about a little bit about this before we started recording, but you were saying how there's just like small things that, like how you said, like doing your makeup brings you happiness. And obviously, um, when you're a student and a hardcore law student like that, it's super important to find time for little things that make you happy, find time to do things that make you happy so you don't go stir crazy. So can you kind of explain how you've been able to like kind of like how Kelly said, like finding the balance? Like obviously it's kind of hard and you were a first semester law student, really finding your routine. So what was that like, and how do you make time for small stuff like that to, make all this studying and make the hard times worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a conscious effort. It's like I have to actually sit there and remind myself like, "Hey, maybe you should go and eat dinner like at the dinner table instead of at in the study room." I don't know, just a thought. Like, and like sometimes I'll look out the window and, look at watch the sunset and just like shut everything else out for a second and just watch the sunset. And like that has been super peaceful for me. And California sunsets, it's true what they say, they're gorgeous. But besides that, like just you got to find those little pieces in the day to, and like sometimes if there's a hockey game on that I like, then I'll set up my iPad next to my computer and I'll try to fix my outline and also watch the game. It's like I don't know, you got to find what works best for you. Me, I get like anxiety if I'm not doing something, but I think this new semester I need to go into it with a goal of like trying to take maybe a half a day off a week, which is going to be a toughie. But like you just trying to find, and also like cleaning my apartment really helps me, and throwing my like stuff in the washer and dryer and like cleaning my bathroom and my bedroom and all that stuff. Like it sounds boring probably to most people, but I love it. Like it's my favorite part of the week. I look forward to it. Or just like walking to go get sushi, things like that. You got to find the tiny things in the day, because I maybe other people's experiences are different, but for me, it's like if I don't have those tiny things, I would probably have dropped out by now.
Look, I'm right there with you. Cleaning my room once a week, doing laundry once every 2 weeks, like
Yeah.
that's my like meditation.
Yes. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. This is my favorite part of the day.
Really,
Yeah,
I
and
so agree.
yeah, and I'm sure like everybody's little things are gonna look different. Like
Yeah.
if you're not somebody who likes to do like the chores and stuff and that actually brings you stress, then find something else that makes
Yeah.
you happy, whether it's, finding the time to watch like an episode of a show that makes you calm down, or
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have like a different routine and something else that makes them feel calm.
Exactly. I mean, sit on the couch, watch TV, call your parents, I don't know, do something that is not school related for at least like an hour or two a day. I mean, that's why I quit at 9, because I'm like, I try to strictly go to bed at 11 so I can wake up
Yeah.
early. And but like, yeah, it's you got to find that little time in the day. Read a book. I don't know, whatever's fun to you. Do it. Play guitar. I don't care.
Yeah. And I want to move on to the next question because I feel like it's a question that a lot of people want to hear about and I want to hear about. We talked a little bit about this when we had like pretty much almost exactly a year ago when we had Christina London on the podcast, because she also made a big move from the East Coast to the West Coast for a job.
Mhm.
Um, and so many of our listeners, me included, are, people who might want to move to a big city like LA or New York one day. and it's really scary. It's stressful, both personally and financially, obviously. So, can you kind of describe your experience, obviously, to whatever like limit that you're comfortable with, obviously, of moving across the country to pursue your dream of going to law school in LA? Whether that's, how you found the right place, finding roommates, budgeting, all that stuff.
Yeah. I I am nothing if not candid to our little jaded listeners. So I will tell you guys, it was hard. It was again on top of just doing law school in general. That the move was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. It was like, I left behind everything and everyone that I pretty much knew. More importantly, everyone. That was hard. Um, so yeah, it was a lot of like trying to get it was a real test. Like I keep telling people this as I'm catching up with them over Christmas break, but like you learn a lot about yourself in those big moments, like moving across the country, that is a gigantic moment, like for me at least. It was. So like you learn to get comfortable with yourself, and you learn to be your own best friend, and you learn that to be responsible, and you just learn like simple things like how to cook. I don't know, it was super cool to learn all these little lessons. And I mean, LA is really cool too. I haven't done as much exploring as I really wanted to. School just took up so much time. And but yeah, I think that you have to make sure that your priorities are straight. And I also think it definitely it helps you understand what's important in your life and what you really want to do and who you want to be. um yeah, like it was the toughest period of my life for sure, but it was the like law school and just moving in general, but it taught me so much about myself, and I like absolutely wouldn't trade it for the world. And like budgeting, it was also kind of hard. That was a new thing for me, but the most schools have a program. I'm sure graduate schools do as well, but like most law schools have a program, and they set you up like with whatever else you need in loans and stuff like that. And then just me personally, I set up my own little budget for each month, and I'm trying to follow it rigidly and like move monies around and make things work and make it happen. But yeah, it's very expensive, especially in a city like LA. For me, at least, coming from Pennsylvania. I mean, I'm sure Californians are probably like laughing at me, but I'm like, $6 for like a peanut butter? This is ridiculous. I'm like, what
So
in the
funny.
world? Being more educated on the California prices, if that's your plan, like to go to California from somewhere like Pennsylvania. Yeah, be educated a little bit more on the prices. And yeah, just be also, don't like pigeonhole yourself, and don't it's easy to get like just tunnel vision towards your goal, but like don't forget to experience life at the same time. Like you move to a big city, and like, yeah, if you're in grad school, if you're in law school, like you might have moved there for a reason, but like don't forget that why you originally moved there in the first place. And it wasn't law school or grad school, it was the city. Like, I mean, it might have also been like, if you're talking about entertainment, it might have been the city, but it might have been like just the general area. But mainly you got to experience some life too, so don't forget like that's out there as well. Yeah.
Talking about like on the subject of budgeting, um, like how do you work that out, obviously, with a full student schedule and maybe not having the time to, have a part-time job to rack up some extra money, to pay for an Uber to go somewhere or to pay to go to this place that you want to go to?
Yeah, so I think it's been a challenge for sure. Some people, I mean, it depends on who you are. And but for me, I chose to not get any extra like money out to live, because I don't really want those extra loans. So I'm working entirely off of my savings in terms of budgeting. So basically I sat down like maybe a couple months before I left, and tried to work out exactly how it was gonna work and how things were gonna fly and what my monthly budget was gonna be. And that takes a lot of planning. Like I planned, for example, 3 years. Like I planned all the way up until graduation, and try to stretch the money out like that. And I also accounted for internships and the average pay that like a legal intern gets in the summer. And hopefully I can pick up a part-time job once my grades come in and everybody sees like that I'm chilling. So yeah, so hopefully that is able to happen, because they don't really recommend that you get a part-time job. That's also something you have to plan for. Don't forget, they really don't want you to work unless you're in a part-time law program. They really don't want you to work anytime during your first during your 1L year. So that's something you have to take into consideration. But again, they do have extra loans depending on your flexibility. Like some people maxed out in what is that, undergrad. So just talk to your financial advisor, talk to your loan provider, and see what works. But yeah, I chose to not have the extra loan. So it's been tough, but I'm doing it in Google Sheets. And which was helpful to have the finance, going back to that. That's why the finance was kind of helpful on that. But yeah, to just plan out, make sure, like, you have to be a super planner, and you have to kind of go type A on it, because you can't just chill back and be like, yeah, okay, spend, and just, because it's not going to work. It won't fly. And you'll have to, I don't know. You won't be able to afford groceries. So you have to think about it. Depending on, again, everybody's financial situation is different, but most law students don't have money. So
Yeah. That is really interesting. I didn't know that at the first year they don't recommend that you work, which I mean, it makes sense to me because I can't even imagine how somebody could be a full-time law student and have a job on the side. That just seems like, when would you sleep?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought that I could originally. And then they were like, no, we really don't want anybody to have like a job at all. And I see why now, honestly. Like
Yeah.
when September hit and things started picking up, I was like, oh, yeah, I definitely see. Like, I don't even have time for myself. Like, I don't have time to sit down and watch my show, barely. Like,
Yeah. So that obviously that's one thing that you didn't expect. Is there another thing or like a list of things that going into law school you maybe didn't expect that happened, or whether it's like you moved to LA and you didn't expect that this would happen, anything of that kind of sort?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot, actually. I mean, you can plan, and I'm such a planner, and you can plan, and sometimes you just get smacked right in the face, like, for example, I had only been to LA one other time, and as with any big city, I'm not from a small town by any means. But as with any city, there's comes some like weird stuff and some dangers and stuff. But I also didn't necessarily know the location in which my apartment is in isn't amazing. That, coupled with the fact that I don't necessarily love the public transport situation, coupled with the fact that I also don't have my own transportation. So that's made things a little bit challenging, because it's not really walkable by any means. So I definitely think that, that was unexpected for me, to not really have many places. That, coupled with the fact that, law school students' budget is kind of small and kind of tight, so there's not really many places you can Uber. That, coupled with the fact that the LA Uber prices are insane, but whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so I think definitely that's something to take into consideration if you're going to make a big move like that, is ask your friends, if you have friends in the area, like, is it a walkable area? How safe is it? And things like that, I think, are things to think about, because those were things that I didn't know going into it. Like, you could be from a city, and with every city there's some aspect to it that is a little bit like shaky. But that was a like whoa moment for me. So yeah, that was definitely unexpected.
I was wondering, honestly, you've given so much advice already. what would you give as advice for people who I guess are a little lost but are afraid to like they have their plan set out, but they're also a little bit lost in like where they have to go and what they have to do. So do you have any other advice you want to add if it's about law school in general, if it's about moving to another city or the LSATs or anything like that? I'm picking up on a lot of advice just like here, sitting here, just like learning from your own experience.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can plan as much as you want, and some things just aren't going to turn out the way that you expected it to, but that's life, and I think we got to roll with it, and some things are harder than other things, and some things are harder than you expected. Like this whole experience for me was a lot harder than I expected, but I would not trade it. Like through all the ups and downs of like moving across the country and being a 1L in my first semester and having some pretty tough courses, um I would not trade it for anything because I learned so much about myself. So I think, plan, and that's good. You should be prepared, and you should plan, but if things hit you wrong, that's okay. Just, pivot when you can in the direction that you are trying to go.
Yeah, and I mean, you talking about obviously you had to have hit some bump in the roads, like that's going to happen. It kind of leads into the last question. It's funny asking you this question because you kind of created the question, but this can be in your experience in law school, in the music industry in general, because obviously that is your end goal, is to work in the industry. But so far in all those experiences, have you ever gotten a little jaded? And if so, how do you come back to yourself and what you love?
Yes. Oh my God, I've never gotten this question. No, yeah, that's so funny to have it flipped on me. Yeah, I have. I think that, in the industry you can experience so many like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. And then also you can experience some moments where you're like, I'm the worst possible person for this position. So like I think that being a little jaded, um it kind of comes with the territory of anything, really, like of what you like, or like in anything basically. So my path, for instance, is the music industry, and you can get it can get monotonous, and like law school especially, I'm like, oh my God, when is this over? Please, or like, can I please get out of this study room? Like, the content is interesting, but like, sometimes, as with everything, you get a little bored and stuff. But I think that um doing those little things each day, and trying to make yourself happy even when you're not feeling the greatest, I think that's what it's all about. Or for me personally, like being aspiring to work in the music industry end game is like um listening to music, or listening to a song where it's like they hit that one note and I'm like, that's why I'm doing this. Like, that's why, or just or talking to somebody that I haven't talked to in a while, or just, I don't know, trying to do something fun, shake it up a little bit, but mostly seeing as my path is the music industry, just like trying to remind myself why, like, oh yeah, 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 that artist, or that song, or that note that they just hit, that was gorgeous. I am in this again. Like, reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and however that looks for you in terms of that reminder that you need, do it.
Amazing. Great way to end everything off. It's so weird having you be a guest. It
I know.
really is because you've been everyone, if unless someone's new, like if you haven't listened to other episodes, like Jade has been here, she created that initial question, like so much has been happening, and it's really cool to see that you did the dang thing and you moved to LA. Like that's like just you doing the initial thing of like deciding I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna apply, I'm gonna tackle the LSAT and doing it. You've accomplished so much. Like, it's insane.
I
Honestly,
appreciate
you're an inspiration because, like, yeah, this entire podcast, this entire company would not be here without your drive to, like, just want to do the things that you want to do. And I feel like that's so motivating for anyone who, like, thinks that they don't have what it takes or, like, are just sitting in their bedroom trying to think of, like, what they could be doing with their life. Like, you could just do it. And you're just
Yeah.
kind of proof of that.
Yeah. And when I think about like hearing like everything that you deal with on a daily basis of being a law student, I'm like, I'm not built for that. I can't even like I would not last a day like trying to be as like organized and on it as you are, but like you just are like a planner and I envy that about you because that obviously helps you so much and helps you in this environment, helps you in so many other environments. So it's something that I'm like, damn, like that's not something you could necessarily teach.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I mean, just a note for you guys and a note for any of our listeners. You're stronger and more capable than you think you are. Because there were a lot of days where I was just sitting in that study room, like, this is it. I'm dropping out. I'm done. It's ridiculous. I'm over it. But you're stronger and much more capable, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
So true. So
Yes,
true.
exactly. I feel like this whole episode has a great message to kick off everybody's 2024 and hopefully motivate everybody. Um, So yeah, thank you for being our guest this month. It's so exciting. Everybody, if you are not following Jade, if you're not following Jaded Productions, you have to do it ASAP. We're gonna have some content by this point that's already up, all about Jade, all about what it's like to be a law student. We have so many other awesome episodes with lots of other professionals in the industry and teaching you all about different areas of the industry. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. But this has been another episode of A Little Jaded.